Welcome to the Juan on Juan podcast with your host, Juan Ayala.
Because they couldn't write it down, they had to pass it down through word of mouth, because if you were caught with a manuscript like this, then you would be in a lot of trouble, because the power structure itself was like, well, we believe in, Catholicism or whatever, fill in the blank, doesn't matter. And the Kybalion is meant to take all the ideas from all of these different religious systems and boil them all down into the principles, which is what's really more important anyway, right? Like essentially the way we think about politics or anything else is like we attribute things to this person or this party or whatever. It's like we totally gloss over the actual principles that are in operation. And the first one being the principle of mentalism, that everything is a mental construct before it's a physical construct. Infinity is real. If infinity is real, whatever it is that you can think of, it already exists. Beyond like even the things that you can think of beyond that, all those things exist too. So instead of having to like create this thing and like work really hard, you can just already know that whatever that thing is in your mind already exists in the mental plane.
Welcome back to another episode of the Juan on Juan podcast. I'm your host as always. Make sure to check out the show on all social media platforms, tjojp.com, at the Juan on Juan podcast on pretty much any podcast platform, any social media platform. We're there. Make sure to check out the Occultist Monday Homunculus edition, 88 pages of homunc goodness, and we also have the other ones professionally printed if you want the Armchair Occultist Reader's Digest. Make sure it's the best toilet paper money can buy, so make sure to get your copies, tjojp.com or on the Ko-Fi store. We also have the comic books on there. Also follow me on Twitch or on the Juan on Juan Media YouTube channel. I am streaming every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Come and hang out as I play games and we talk. It's usually a good time. We have Joe Roop is there a lot, and we just talk about anything and everything. So make sure to check me out on there. Links down in the description. And today we have a guy who hasn't been on the podcast in a while, and I like this guy. What up, Owen?
What up, Juan? It's a pleasure to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
It's been too long, dude. How you been?
It has been too long, dude. I've been busy. Things have been good though. I can't complain. I'm just I'm happy to be back kicking it with you though. It's nice. I'm glad you're hanging with Joe Roop, man. That's my boy.
Yeah, I love Joe. Shout out to Joe Lighting the Void. Make sure to check him out, fringe.fm. And dude, plug your stuff before we get into it. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Kybalion today, some alchemy, some reality manipulation, all that good stuff. Where can people find you on your podcast?
Hell yeah, man. So my podcast is called Blue Collar Mystics. I call it that because, well, I'm a simple person. I grew up in West Georgia, and I feel like if I can't teach a meth head to meditate, then I've done something wrong. So, really, I'm all about taking this esoteric, occult, crazy and just like bringing it down to the ground level, making it as simple as possible so we can all understand it. So I think we're all blue collar mystics, anybody who's digging down into the final rabbit hole, which is ourself. So Blue Collar Mystics is my podcast. I go by Bootsy Greenwood on the ones and zeros. That's my stripper name. So, if you need a little bit of late night entertainment, holler at your boy too. But bootsygreenwood.com is my website. And you can find me on YouTube, Bootsy Greenwood. And that is, I've got a bunch of videos just talking about a lot of this stuff. I break it down. I got the whiteboard and I just write, stick figures and stuff on there to try to illustrate these reality concepts and, fuse it with stuff that hopefully can be really helpful for people. I'm just trying to empower, inspire a little bit and show people, where I've come from, because I was at the pits of despair, in the conspiracy realm, and I had to kind of dig my own way out. So that's kind of why we'll be talking about the Kybalion today. That's one of the big books that really helped me start to understand this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny you mentioned the what I call the interdimensional crackheads that need to be stopped. And actually, Joe was just ranting about this past Tuesday about the interdimensional sluts that need to be stopped and need to quit, need to quit lying to society. So there's something there, dude. These interdimensional crackheads are taking over the 7-Elevens. They must be stopped, and we're here to do that. And I just want to say, bro, you know, we were talking about comedy, and or you know, before we start recording, and I want to say I admire people who do it for a living, dude, because it was one of those type of things where there's something to be said about the power that trauma has, right, to transform. Now, obviously, not all trauma is good trauma, but I do believe in putting yourself in uncomfortable positions to better yourself, right, to advance. Because we get sometimes, how you mentioned, these rabbit holes sometimes, and the conspiracy especially, where you just start to believe that everything is fake and gay, and it might very well all be fake and gay. Like, for all we know, we don't know. That's the thing. And part of the Kybalion that I enjoyed listening to you in my ear holes today for a couple hours, and I'm going to be talking to you for another hour. And so here is the idea of, right, all is mind, all is mental. And if alchemy is the transformation of mind, or not just alchemy, but magic, right? The way I've come to understand magic is putting yourself in the state of mind to bring forth that change. So when I did stand up, I'm not going to lie, bro, it was traumatizing as hell. Mm-hmm. It was scary, man. And it was something weird, right? Because we're on this platform, you know, people tune in, me and you will make a dick joke. We don't know who laughs and who doesn't, right? We're probably bombing, dude. People are like, man, these guys need to shut up. And when you're up on the stage, dude, I wasn't expecting the real-time feedback. That feedback loop. So I'm just like, boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, oh, wait. I'm looking at this lady in her eyeball, and she's disgusted by the stuff that I'm talking about. That's a real... Dude, that's a real reaction. I literally was up there, bro, and I didn't know where to look. It was like 200 something people. It was more people than expected. And I'm looking, and when I hit the punchline of the dog dick, I looked this guy in the front row. See, I'm like, do you remember the last time you saw a dog dick? Like, looking at him, bro, I was looking through his soul, and the look on his face, dude, it's just like imprinted in my mind. He's like, he didn't know what to do, bro. And I'm like, man, these are real people that I'm talking to. Dude, it was the craziest. And there was a heckler, bro. I had a heckler the first set out.
Holy
heckling, dude. And it was just, I was like, I admire people who actually, and you do this. And I can't imagine doing it. Like, I did it for fun, bro. Like, my friends were there. Paranoid American was there. Dona was there. Sam Chipley was there. A bunch of people who listened to the show were there. And I was having fun. But, dude, I thought I was going to faint. I was chain smoking cigarettes before going on. I was about to, like, and this guy looked at me, he's like, bro, you all right? I was like, I need to get this over with, man. I gotta get up there. I almost tripped going up on the stage, dude. Dude,
classic.
It was very traumatizing, okay, to say the least. And yeah, I told my last joke in the middle, told my middle joke at the end. Mm-hmm. It was something else. But I believe putting yourself in these positions to further, right? And I recently talked about this on a stream I was doing about, and I could have swore this was part of like Marvel or DC canon, where any hero goes through a sort of transformational trauma. Like Spider-Man gets bitten by a spider that kind of transform. Maybe that's trauma. Captain America goes through like a special program in the army to so there's something with the superhero, and then you bleed into like the occult conspiracy realm of like MK Ultra, where they're trying to create the Ubermensch, and that's part of the Kybalion, the Kybalion, this Overman, this Superman, right? So yeah, dude, I'll shut up, but absolutely, the trauma can be used in a beneficial way, right? Not the bad kind of trauma. But yeah, I'm absolutely with you as well with the conspiracy. It can really mold your mind, and not in the best way possible. And you're able to take it and how you say, get people out, dig people out of the rabbit holes that they're in. And I think that's really important, especially nowadays where you can't even trust your eyes, bro.
Yeah, that's true. With AI and everything, right? When the pandemic happened, dude, I was totally lost, and I had a really hard time with that. In so much, I actually hired a shaman at the time to help me, because it was like, I don't know who to believe. I don't know what is going on. I'm so lost. And in my mind, I was like, if I can't hear my own internal voice, because that's what really matters. My internal voice might tell me to get the out of here and go to somewhere else. My neighbor might need to stay here, and that we may have completely different paths, but I know that no one can tell me what I need to know internally. And that's the most important thing that we can know. And I got into, and maybe I'm just like a little bit emotionally sensitive or even fragile, but I got like into like a victim mentality, studying a lot of the conspiracy stuff. And it was just like, everybody's got their different level that they can take and not be, some people can read this all the time and it doesn't affect their mental state at all. But for me, like, I had to really be mindful about what I was consuming, right? Like, it's like the other day, I almost clicked on a Russell Brand video. I didn't do it. It was like the biggest win. I was like, I just ran a marathon or something. Yeah. Cause like, it just takes one, I'm one and I'm down that whole
just
thing.
One more Alex Jones video. Just one
right,
more.
Exactly. Right. It's like Alex Jones lullabying me to sleep. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, so I had to just shift what I was focusing on. And that was really helpful for me. And when I found these certain books, I realized that basically a lot of the things that we're talking about and experiencing, it's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. And it's been like that for a long time. And it's good to know what's going on, but we have to learn how to understand what's going on, but also protect our like inner ecosystem and make sure that we're okay, because we all have the right to feel good. We all have the right to be happy, pursue happiness at the very least. And so it's a balance. We want to know what's going on, but we also need to be able to really understand ourselves at a deep level. And then that way we can be guided on the path that's meant for us, whatever that is, because it's all different for each one of us. But dude, I love what you're talking about with comedy. It's so true. All the things you've experienced, I've experienced it so many times. And I had a girl on the podcast actually a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about rejection therapy. She was actually, she's actually a personal stylist. So she was talking about like basically peacocking. She's like, wear outrageous outfits and go out and see what happens, And she was talking about rejection therapy. And I'm like, holy, that is basically what comedy is, because you do get that instant feedback. And, you're saying the dog dick line, and then all of a sudden someone's looking at you and they're mortified.
Yeah, dude. It's like the Joe Rogan's line of like bombing, where it's like sucking 1,000 dicks in front of your mom or whatever he says. And there was a local comedian that came up to me after the show, and he's like, dude, everything that you said, because bro, I tell history, like I talk about history. Everything that I cover is history. It's in there's records, it's in the book. Like, that's history. If you want to believe in it or not, it doesn't matter. And he came up to me and goes, dude, it was hilarious because nobody knew what the fuck you were talking about.
Dude, that's how I started. I started out trying to talk about these high level ideas on a comedy stage where people are like, bro, where's the dick joke? You know what I'm saying? Like, they had no idea. So it's taken me, quite some time, to get comfortable. I mean, I remember when I first started, there was a comedian that I really look up to. He opened up for Tom Segura and Doug Stanhope. And he's a friend of mine named Carlos Valencia. He lives in Charlotte. But he told me that it took him 5 years just to get comfortable on stage. And he's one of the funniest I've ever met. Like, he just doesn't stop. He can't turn it off. Like, he's always on. And I was shocked to hear that. But in my own development, like, I totally get that, because like, when you're on stage, you've got all these people looking at you. They're all having their own expectations. You feel their energy. A lot of them have an attitude. They're like, okay, you better make me laugh. They're not on your side. It's dead out there, and there's nothing. You have to create all the energy. You have to bring it, and you can't let 100 or 200 people dictate to you it's the ultimate alchemy. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to generate that emotion yourself and bring that to them. And until you start getting that loop going, they're just like a brick wall, and that's it. So it's definitely a trying thing, but I encourage people to do it, but also to have patience with it, because it's like, do you become like a master mechanic in a year, or do you become a great painter in a year, or a great copywriter, or any of those? It's like, no matter what it is, and for whatever reason, I don't know, I was deluded. I was like, I'll be good at this in a couple of years. It's like, it's taken some time to even just, get comfortable with it. But the more that I've gone on stage and experienced it and had that rejection therapy, the more you kind of build a callousness to it. You don't even care like what the audience is like. You go out there and you bring your set and you start to, I call it snake charming. Andrew Schultz used to say it was like bullfighting. I've heard him say, but to me, it's like snake charming, because you have to go out to the audience and they're like, let's say you're hosting too. That's even harder, right? Because they're not warm. They haven't laughed yet. They're not like in a vibe. So you have to basically like, seduce them into liking you, and then get them to laugh, and then keep them laughing. And then as soon as they're like on your side, bring the next comic up so that they can keep that momentum going and going. Cause it really is. It's like, it's this like dance where you have to like lull them into a hypnotic state. I mean, we're all in hypnotic states all the time. It just depends on kind of which one, right? Like we're all in some, different state of consciousness or vibe, or however we want to call it.
We're all collectively hallucinating all the time. We just agree all together that this is what reality is. And
absolutely.
Right, you're talking about comedy being this sort of esoteric art, which it is, right? Making somebody feel a certain type of feeling. And I was thinking today, right, because we were going to be recording this, and I was thinking about how this jester archetype, right, like the clown, and how the clown is also related to the Nephilim, according to some people's research, right? This idea of, and then you're talking about manipulating people's feelings, people's realities, which we know feelings are the different, right? The divine comedy, because I've been playing Dante's Inferno. So to the divine, there's different feeling, heresy, anger, gluttony, like all these different things. And it's interesting because a gesture, like a kind gesture, is something that can be done kindly, but then you have the jester, right, of this person that kind of, so I'm like, where's the connection there? Is there a connection of like a kind gesture and a jester, right? Because there's something, though, that class of people, right, back then during the Renaissance or whatever, they always were very close to the court, like the royalty in some sort of way. And I've heard people even talk today about how the comedy movement, and I'm talking about like the mainstream comedy movement, right? And we're talking about Joe Rogan and all these guys, which, let's be honest, bro. Let's be honest for 1 second. Let's be honest, all right?
Let's do. I like it.
Rogan isn't that funny. And I think that people only show up to watch his stuff because he's Rogan. What if this comedy scene, how some people say, is part of the 3-letter agencies, if you will, right? Because we're talking about the jester class, right? This person that could kind of survive, but they live with the royalty, but they weren't actually, they could touch them, they could be around them and make them laugh, right? Like, what if this comedy scene is just that? Because I'm thinking about Rogan's, didn't he make one, The Sacred Clown? I could have sworn I went to go see him live in Orlando when he did that. Or speaking of not being funny, but I went to go see him.
I've seen him too, and he was good. I mean, he had a great set. It was fun to watch. But your point is very well taken. And as someone who's in the industry, like,
are you part of the CIA, Owen?
It's gate kept, for sure, 1000%. There's tons of hilarious comedians that you'll never see or hear. I mean, there's a line out the door of people who just aren't accepted by the group. And, I mean, I could even talk about experiences that I've had where it's
secret
like
society, bro. Say it. It's a secret society.
I mean, essentially it is. I mean, it's like we went and did like a show down at a spot, and everyone was like mean to you, and like they didn't even acknowledge you. And it's like, and then they just like lambaste you on stage, like you do like a roast battle or something, then all the judges just pick on you. It feels like being bullied in high school or something, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, it's just personal. But it's funny too, because a lot of the people who are, I guess, I don't know, blackballed's probably not the right word, but just not embraced by the industry. They don't have the entrepreneurial like prowess to go and just do their own thing. And that's all you have to do. Because like everybody wants to be made by this industry that you oppose and hate. It's like, if you hate the established order, why are you trying to join it? Start your own thing. Like, it's not that hard to go to the bar down the street that you are going to be drinking beer in anyway and just be like, yo, can we do an open mic here? It's really that easy. And not enough people are willing to do that, but that can grow into an entire circuit. That can grow into an entire tour. That can grow into an entire group of people. And if those people have the correct mentality of abundance and not just willing to cut each other's throats so that they can feature for Marlon Wayans or whoever, you know what I'm saying? Like, nothing against Marlon Wayans, super funny. But like, if I'm going to feature for some comedian that everyone else came to see, then I haven't made it yet. I'm just their feature. Who cares? Nobody cares if I hosted their show. They're not going to follow me on Instagram. They're not going to come see me at the club. Until they're seeing me at the club, I haven't made it yet. You see what I mean? And all it takes is a few like-minded people who have the right mentality to go and work together. Look at Monty Python. You know, what they were able to do, you know, just a few dudes sitting in a room for a couple hours a day. It's really not that hard. Look what you and Thomas have done with Paranoid American, with the comic books. I mean, the shit y'all have done is hilarious. It's phenomenally well done. Like, it's just as well done as any of the mainstream. So, you know, like
shadow banned.
Yeah. So there you go. And so that's how you know you're doing some good shit.
Yeah. By the way, I mean, for the record, I don't believe in shadow banning. I believe in like, just make better that people like that's the thing about creating content or creating anything, art, because comedy is art too. It's like, well, they didn't laugh, we'll get better, you know, like what will be better, and that pushes you to be better and innovate, and again step outside of that boundary of like, oh, I'm just gonna keep trying this because but at the end of the day, I always tell everyone, have fun. If you're not having fun, don't do it, because you're not going to be passionate about it. You're not going to enjoy it. And it's just going to be another chore, another thing, another drag. Like, oh, here we go again. But you're absolutely right, dude. And man, I hate gatekeepers, dude. That's one of the things that turns me off the most about even the podcasting, bro. There's a ton of gatekeepers. And it seems like everything is all about, you know, you have to get through this guy or that person or this and that. And unfortunately, I mean, a lot of times, like I take it for granted how far I've come, because there's people on like Reddit, if you go on like the podcasting Reddit, that are getting, dude, they're getting like 50 downloads, you know, like, oh, I got 50 down this month. And I'm like, oh, you know, like that we've come a long way, you know, like, and millions of downloads now versus these people who will, you know, you have to break through that barrier, and it sucks, dude. Like, making something new and starting a brand from scratch sucks. But how you said, if you get the right team around you, it's definitely possible. And that's one of the things that I experienced, how you said this gatekeeping, when I was looking for a place to do Sam's show here in Orlando. I hit up a couple of comedians, and I'm like, hey, dude, I've seen you do a lot of shows at XYZ. Would you like to collaborate? Like, here we have, you know, it's going to be for Sam Tripoli, using his name, right, to like see if you could get something. Hey, it's going to be for Sam Tripoli. You know, could you help? Yeah, I don't know of any clubs. Bro, you all your reels, or are you at some club? You can't like get, you know, anybody there that you could, the owner, like, come on, dude, you're not going to be at some dude's club and not know somebody to at least be able, like, dude, I'm not looking for a free handout. Like, everything's going to be coordinated. But it's like, yeah, I actually don't know anyone. I was like, oh, okay, I see how it is. Like, it's fine, dude. Don't worry about it. You know, but those same people will come a knocking when they see you up and to the right. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it's like, sure, dude. I mean, it is what it is. And it feels so good to be like, I'm good, dude. Or not even open up their message or anything after the fact.
I just book them and take a cut. You know, like,
hey, and that's fine, dude.
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna
that's
be like,
fine.
oh, okay. You know?
You're absolutely, like, you got the connections. Yeah, dude, get a cut. Awesome. I wasn't looking for a handout. I was just looking for a spot to be able to do it locally here, you know? And I figured, like, if we establish a relationship, it can be a reoccurring thing. So everybody wins every single time. But no. So back again to this gatekeeping stuff. And one of the interesting parts about the Kybalion, I don't know if you want to get into that, because I was listening to you read it today, and people can find that on your YouTube channel, the audiobook version that you did. And you also translated it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can do that. I mean, I translated it from English to English, right? Like, it's like the Gen Z version. It's like spirituality is litty, fam. You know, like, sit down and open up your third eye crown, bruh. You know, and but I just wanted to make it more consumable. If you read the old version, it's got old writing, and you know, I just wanted to make it more easier to understand. Like I said, you know, like, I want to take it and make it available to this and make it as simple as possible and just boil it down. So that was really my goal. And I learned so much by doing that. Like, it really helped me to understand the concepts a lot, because it was a book that I read quite a few times, and I really kind of struggled with a lot of the concepts in there. There's one chapter in particular that's kind of like, you could probably just skip it, because it's like, it's a correspondence chapter, which is a great idea, as it's where the as above, so below idea comes from. But they talk about the plane of mineral mind, the plane of plant mind, the plane of, you know, all these different planes of existence. And then they talk about how they're all linked together, you know, as well. And it's like, but is that really important? And I almost skipped it, but I was like, no, I'm going to keep this legit, because I'll probably do a summary too, where I just summarize everything in like 30 or 40 minutes, and then I can skip it. Yeah. But I want to keep it intact, because I'm not trying to, like, you know, piss off the gods. And fortunately, Thoth has not stricken me yet with any lightning bolts. So I'm good to go as far as that goes. But as far as the principles, man, they're tried and true. And you find these principles in all these other spiritual books too, whether it's Ralph Waldo Emerson or James Allen or the Vadim Zeland Transurfing book or the Bhagavad Gita or the Tao Te Ching. Like, these principles are universal. And they're really the things that are I would say, game rules to the simulation, essentially.
For those that don't know about the Kabbalion, can you give us a brief breakdown of, like, because it's one of these books that is anonymous. And I did an episode yesterday with Alex Myers, and we talked about the Book of Aquarius, which is this anonymous book that came out, and it's revealing you how to create it's urine, right? They're like, hey, if you drink your own piss, it's the Philosopher's Stone. I'm like,
that's where that all came from.
And he's like, hey, you know, how have you ever tried to create I hear it's from your pee. And I go, listen, dude, these alchemists have tried their excrement, their piss, their blood, their everything. I'm sure there's something. The kidney stones, is that has anyone ever tried to eat their kidney stone? I mean, I don't know. I mean, you crush up your kidney stone and snort it. Is that like the answer of all? Can you imagine, bro? If that was like the answer to all of reality, how wild that would, the dumbest things that's in your face, like the most simplest thing. Cause sometimes it's hidden in plain sight, bro, but everybody ignores it. I'm not drinking my piss anytime soon. And I've seen people who, dude, they'll marinate it for weeks. Oh, dude, bro, that's disgusting. Maybe that's what Bear Grylls was on, dude. What if he knew the secrets? Bear Grylls knew the secrets to reality, and he was showing us. And everyone has always made fun of that guy. Like, oh, he's drinking his own piss. That's the first thing they say about him, drinking your own pee. But what if he knew, right? Like, because sometimes it be like that. Right? It's like we're so focused on, oh, more. You know, let's find the deeper meaning to the Olympics, a breakdancer that everyone's losing their mind over. It's like, oh, with this whole conspiracy of who gives about this lady breakdancing? Yeah, whatever. She sucked. I thought it was lame, you know? But it goes viral, dude. The dumbest things go viral, man.
Hawk Tuah thing, right?
The
like,
Hawk Tuah, yes.
You spit on it. Good for you, girl. Like, why are you so special? You know what I mean?
Because she said the quiet part out loud, bro.
I guess.
You know what I'm saying? Like she said and that's, again, I feel like these people that go viral, they're like these archetypes, and especially nowadays where you have to pussyfoot and tiptoe around all these different. I was on the phone with my dad today, and he was ordering something at Starbucks, and the guy sounded kind of flamboyant, and he's like, my dad's one of these older guys. He's almost 50 years old now. My dad's kind of young for my age. 50. He had me at 18. 50 years old, and he's like, "Thank you, sir." And then the person's talking. He sounded kind of gay, and then he said, "Thank you, sir," again. And I was like, "Dad, don't say sir. So you never know." He's like, "Oh, there's only two genders," and he goes on this whole rant. I'm like, "Yes, Dad, but we're in a place where he's making your drink, bro. He's gonna spit in your chai tea if you call sir, it's ma'am." You know, like like he's like, I tell him sir and ma'am, and I catch myself sometimes too. Not that I really care, but again, I think we're in this indoctrination. And sometimes I'll be on the phone for whatever work or something. I'm like, "All right, thank you, sir," or "Yes, sir," and I catch myself like, hopefully it was a sir and not they, them, he, whatever the hell they identify as. Like, sir, I identify as a homunculus. All right. So don't ever call me that again. Right. I'm an interdimensional being. That's what I identify as. So, this indoctrination where you have to kind of like tiptoe around all these subjects. And I forgot where the fuck I was going with that, but I'm sorry, continue on.
No, I can't stop thinking about your dad drinking. I'm drinking coffee right now, and I'm like, he's sipping it. He's like, creamy. Is that? It
was a hot tool, bro, in his drink.
Is that semen or is that clit juice? What is that? What am I sipping on here? But no, I mean, it's crazy. We do have to tip. It's weird, because the truth is that we don't want to offend anybody. That's all projection. And it's like people they want to be offended, I think, a lot of the time. And, we were raised to say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, no, ma'am, no, sir. I don't know. I try and comply with whatever the rules are just because I care about people, and it's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm making an effort. And if they get up, I mean, I'll tell you a story off air that'll crack your ass up, but I can't share it here. You understand.
Yeah, I got you, bro.
But I really do. Like I go the effort. But to your point, like could it be drink and pee? Who knows? I watched this one dude on TikTok who was talking during the pandemic about going up to the North Pole and drinking the living water. And I was like, well, it could be. You go up there and sip the living water and just boom, you're out of the matrix.
And you become the thing.
It could be, but we don't really know. That's what's crazy about it. But what the Kybalion really, I think, is doing, and I'll say this too, I'm like super obsessed with the Bhagavad Gita. Like that's my right now. But like the ideas really overlap. And ultimately it is about, like you were talking about, becoming that uber mensch. It talks about polarizing to your highest self. So whatever you see that as. And the way that people used to do that is they would look at a picture of Jesus, not him on the cross, but like the transfiguration is really like osmosis. It's about basically like marinating in the essence of what it is that you want to be and bring into the world. So it's like you look on Jesus and then you begin to take on his characteristics. You begin to embody unconditional love and these values of fruits of the spirit or whatever. And so that was a big part of like Gnosticism and starting to understand like the values of purity and spirituality and all those things. Because I think ultimately, I believe in reincarnation. The Kybalion talks about it in that book. Bhagavad Gita talks about it as well. And so like, maybe we don't make it out of here this time, but that doesn't mean that, we don't learn a whole lot and then maybe come back and then learn more and then come back and then learn more. And then eventually get to the point where we do get out of here, because the Bhagavad Gita says that is the ultimate purpose of life, is to connect to the Atma, which is the soul within us. That is God. And when we actually do that, then we basically, break through the barriers of whatever this fake gay simulation is. I love the meme you posted today. It was like, everything is fake and gay, because that's essentially what it says, right? That's not incorrect. That is like they say in Hinduism, all is Maya, right? Like it's all Maya. Yeah. It's all illusion. So essentially it is all fake and gay, right? Like it's all just kind of, but the rules and the parameters to leverage reality, those exist so that we can get some of the things that we want. Some of the things that, how funny is it that Google's got AI popping up first now? I just noticed that today.
I ain't asked for it, but yeah, shout out to Sean Alger from the Weaving Spiders. Welcome for that meme. He texted it to me, and he always sends me good stuff. But right, speaking of this, I just looked up. Urine does contain trace amounts of gold.
Huh.
So, listen, dude. I don't know if you've ever read or looked into the Bach saga, where they were sucking their own dicks for enlightenment. They were blowing loads into their mouths for enlightenment, and then it turns out that like the loads contain DNA and information. So literally, it was enlightening to consume it, right? And that's where you get it. Maybe the dudes that got tired of sucking their own dicks are like, dude, let's just hold it in, man. We don't have to keep doing this. Like, no more Haktua. Let's just hold it in, right? Let's just stop jerking each other off, because there was like a hierarchy of, there was a guy who tickled the balls, the other guy stroked him, and then dude, it was like a it was like a swastika of dudes, but they were jerking each other. Read it. It's in the Bach saga, but
that's incredible.
Yeah, the urine can contain trace amounts of gold. Gold can be found in urine when it's absorbed into the blood and filtered out of the body in an ionized salt form. And this is interesting because the Chinese, they would quite literally, and these were Taoist monks and Taoist alchemists, they would collect. This is where you get the Mellified man from, which is a legend about a person that towards the end of their life, they would sacrifice themselves for the good of their people, and they would only eat honey towards the end of their life until their urine became honey, their sweat became honey, their excrement became honey. And then when they would pass on, that they were purified, they would be put in a sarcophagus or a tomb full of honey, and it would be closed off. And they would just let that marinate for 100 years. And then in 100 years, they'd open up the tomb, casket, whatever, and they'd break off a piece of that Kit Kat bar, and it would heal people, right? So they'd take a piece of the guy that had mellified himself, the honey man, and they would use it as some sort of elixir to cure people. And the Chinese, and it comes from a Chinese account of an Arabic story or something like that. And it was this guy who wrote a book, the largest encyclopedia of like Chinese herbalism, like in the 16th century. And as soon as he finished writing that book, he dies, bro. Like he wrote the most extent here. I'll pull it up. The Beng Cao Gungmu. So the Beng Cao Gungmu is a compendium of Materia, Medica, or Great Pharmacopoeia, is an encyclopedic gathering of medicine, natural history, and Chinese herbology, compiled and edited by Li Shenzhen and published in the late 16th century during the Ming Dynasty. And this dude, bro, as soon as he was done with it, he died. He was exhausted from writing this book. But the point is that they use body parts and different things to, so the contents, it was, let me find it here, but they had 11,000 prescriptions, and a lot of it was like the sediment at the bottom of urine, right? Like a lot of those things, let me pull it up because it gets crazy, but there's something to it. I'm not going to be doing anything with my own semen or my urine, but I'm just saying it's interesting that they would use the body to heal the body, right? Whenever like leaves fall off of one of my trees, I let the leaves fall where next to the plant or the fruit, right? Because what better fertilizer than fruits of whatever come from that tree? You get what I'm saying? Like it's an endless cycle. It's like the Kybalion says, where there's a cycle of rebirth, right? So it's born, it matures, like some sort of expansion, and then it peaks and it
matures, and then it dies, right? Like after it hits that maturity point. Yeah.
That's fruit. Right? It falls into the ground, it comes back up, and it's the Ouroboros, bro.
Right.
That's all it is. So, but yeah, urine does contain gold.
Well, dude, this is crazy that you mentioned that about the honey, because I just had like one of my best friends who's like one of the smartest on the face of the planet. He's like just genius level. They won't even tell him how smart he is. They're like, "Oh, you're really smart. We can't tell you the number.
Sir, you're autistic." Oh, shit.
Yeah, basically that's what we say to him, you know. But he's the sweetest too. But like he was telling me about Manuka honey. Have you ever heard of Manuka honey?
No, how do you spell that?
Okay, so it's Manuka. It's from New Zealand, and so you can apparently take Manuka honey and you can put it in your wounds and it'll heal your wounds. And so that's how the Aborigines in New Zealand would use that as a cure-all for pretty much everything. They eat it, they put it in their wounds, and it fights infection, staph infection, all this kind of stuff. I had never heard of it, but we were literally talking about it literally 2 nights ago. And I have a picture, of it that he sent me, because he's talking about what he's been eating. We're talking about our health stuff. And so, so essentially, I don't know how that might connect to some like burying bodies in honey, but like somehow or another, like that's a very like healing, like medical type of substance.
I have mad honey. You ever heard about that?
Mm-mm.
So mad honey is a honey that comes from the Himalayas, and there's a flower that the bees pollinate from, and it's got a neurotoxin. So the bees will pollinate this flower at a certain time of year, and when they come back to make the honey, they have trace amounts of that neurotoxin, and it gets into the honey. And when you take the honey, it's got psychedelic effects.
Oh, that sounds
called mad honey. Yeah. I know somebody who has some, who bought some off the internet, right? So yeah, so I'm trying to find the list of stuff that. So man is medicine. Here we go. Right here. So included 35 human drugs. That's actually a good title. Man as medicine. Because if we were put here, right, by God on earth, and there's certain people who have violated the laws of nature, if you will, right? And I think this is where nature is unforgiving. Mm-hmm. So maybe certain STDs came forth from a man interacting with an animal in an appropriate way, right? And therefore you have to pay now for what you did in that point in time, right? Because this all ties into the Nephilim, and the reason it ties into the Nephilim is because allegedly back then they were able to get gold from the urine of the Nephilim. I don't know. Somebody told me about that yesterday, some theory, and I was like, sure. And this is where does urine contain gold? It's like, yeah, it does. And here we have the man is medicine, where they have a bunch of different things. Look, the prescription 33 human feces. What if that's the secret to reality, bro? Right? So human earwax, human knee dirt. And one of my favorite grimoires, that's a weird thing to say. One of my favorite magical recipes that I've seen was you needed to get the water that ran off the ass of a woman that was facing towards the east or something like that, bro.
Wow.
Dude, now that could be code for something. I don't know.
Right.
But can you imagine having to collect the ass cheek water of you got to make sure you face the east, right? And then let me get the water that's running off your ass cheeks. But like human teeth, human nails, white sediment of human urine, processed white sediment of human urine, urinary stones, human milk, saliva. What the hell is human tartar? What? Anyways.
I guess that's from your teeth. Like maybe, I don't know.
Human ghost.
A ghost of a hanger. How do you even collect that?
So, fun fact, they believe that the semen of a hanged man, wherever it would fall, would grow a homunculus or the hell's that plant that looks like a man? It's in Harry Potter, the screaming plants. Anyways.
I don't know.
Human placenta, processed fluid of human placenta, umbilical cord, human penis. There you go. Now we're cooking with gas. All right. Human mummy, and then human beings from different locations, and human beings in extraordinary forms. Again, these were stuff. What the hell is that? These were things that looked weird.
How'd you get a picture of my dick? What the fuck?
Here's my chode, right? So it's like they were experimenting back then with this sort of stuff, dude. I mean, it makes sense that we can heal ourselves. If we can drag ourselves out of the rabbit hole, we can heal ourselves, but we're being constantly bombarded, bro, with garbage, with stuff. And let me say that as I take a hit of my vape. So, interesting connection, dude. I didn't think we were going to be talking about this today, but we are. We're here.
Well, it's fascinating. I mean, I remember when you were on the homunculus thing for a while, and I was interested in that. You know what I mean? And the Bach Saga stuff has always been kind of interesting to me. I think he does great work, and I think he's a great guy. We've talked a couple of times. We've had him on the show, and it's like when you go back in time, you start to see all these like pottery things of people like coming in things, and like it's just gross. Like it's all this like, and it's like you guys didn't have the internet, so you were just kinky. You know, and I'm not one to kink shame. You know, I believe everybody can. You know, I'm a very
between two consenting adults. Yes, absolutely.
Right, exactly. But I mean, when you look at this art and the sculptures and stuff, it's very clear that there's some sexual going on, like sexual ritual stuff that is definitely not part of our social. You know, it's just it's taboo as far as like we're concerned. Right. And so I'm not an ethnocentrist either, where I think that our culture is better than anyone else's. But at the same time, like this stuff sounds pretty far out. Like, and that's coming from me, dude. I'm pretty woo. So,
dude, I mean, and that's the thing, bro, that the word fetish, the original meaning before it was put into the psychosexual way, meant dwelling place of an entity or a demon or a spirit. And it's weird that in the Kybalion, it also talks about the use of the sexual energy. And I love the way that Joe put it, where it's like, yeah, it's the marriage between a man and a woman when they come together, like love, right? The love. And I'm not talking about like love under will, do with none of that gay, but I'm talking about like love of looking down at your own son or a loved one and loving them. Like, you don't know how to explain that feeling, bro. It's a weird feeling. And I'm not talking about lust, or I'm talking about like loving somebody. Sometimes I'll look at my little son, I'm like, I just want to squeeze you, bro. Like, he's so cute. You know, I just want to. And sometimes I'll be squeezing, and sometimes I'll hear like something crack, and I'm like, all right, you okay? Like, because these kids are still developing, you know. So I'll squeeze them and just like hold them, and it's just like that. And he's like, this is why the divorce rates are at a higher, because there's something that comes, a force that comes in between everything and wants to break it apart. And that's what perhaps Satan is, or that's what evil is. That's what the devil is, like this thing that doesn't want people to love. And look at the state of the world now, bro, right, where it's very hateful, very this, very that, very polarizing, which links into the Kybalion, right? The polarization, it's all about poles and holes at the end of the day. Well, again, it's just, I find it super interesting that how you're saying these, in this particular book, right, written anonymously by the three initiates. And I know this pioneer, William Walker Atkinson, attorney, merchant, publisher, and author, as well as an occultist and American pioneer of the New Thought movement. He is the author of the pseudonymous works attributed to Theron Q, Dumont, and Yogi Raman Sharaka. Interesting. So they think it's this guy. Do we really know? This was published in 1908. So it's got the perspective, right, of everything else that you were talking about, the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, and the way I've come to understand it all, any religion really, is you're tapping into something. What you use it for is up to you. The Jedi use it for good. The Sith use it for evil.
Right.
But they're tapping into the same thing. And I think that's all it is, bro. It's a current. It's a flow. It might be the current of your piss, right? The flow of your piss. Who knows, dude?
It's possible. Yeah. I mean, and what's interesting about the New Thought period in this time in American culture is like, people got obsessed with a lot of the esoteric stuff. But that's when this is the first time when Eastern books were translated in the West. So all the Tao Te Ching, the Bhagavad Gita, is the first time. And then you've got the Transcendentalists who are my heroes. I mean, they nailed it as far as I can tell. Like you could read Emerson's Self-Reliance, that if I had to pick one book, you know, and it'd take you an hour to read, it's like, what is more profound than that, you know? But this was a very interesting time in American history because we were able to peer into the Eastern ideas and thoughts for the first time, because that's when they first were translated. So this particular book is definitely attributed to William Walker Atkinson, or the Three Initiates, these anonymous Masons. But he basically takes and he puts everything in category with 7 different laws. And people talked about this for ages and ages, you know, and these ideas are meant to unify all the religious systems. It's not a new cult. It's basically meant to take everything and put it together, because you weren't allowed to say, it was heresy to say that, oh, well, I mean, the Christianity stuff is basically the same thing as Islam. You know, you'd be like, oh my God, you were a fanatic. You were a crazy person for saying something like that. You weren't allowed to make those kind of equalizations or comparisons. So what it is that the Kybalion, which they don't even know, it says in the Kybalion, we don't even know what the Kybalion actually means, like the meaning of that word.
But they keep saying it.
Yeah. Other than it was passed down just from word of mouth, from master to student, master to student, master to student. So over time, like a game of telephone, you know, you're going to have some variation in things, but it doesn't necessarily have any real meaning attributed to it. So what do we got there?
Just want to remind everyone, make sure to check out the show on Patreon, patreon.com/the Juan on Juan podcast. I constantly get emails. Oh, only one episode a week. Yeah, one episode a week for the public, but for as little as $5 a month, you can get up to 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 1 episode per day on the Patreon, as well as on the YouTube channel as a member for as little as $5. And there's also on the Patreon over 250 episodes only found on there. There's an extensive backlog of episodes. So check that out. For those interested, for those asking, make sure to follow the show on YouTube, Juan on Juan Podcast. Also, Juan on Juan Media. I am going live every Tuesday on there, streaming. I also go live on twitch.tv/Juan on Juan Podcast. So make sure to check me out on there. Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern. And make sure to get your copy of the Occultus Mundi, Homunculus Owner's Manual, all that good stuff at tjojp.com. Can pick up your copies there, or go over to the Ko-Fi. I'm on Facebook, Twitch, Kick, Rumble, all that good stuff. You know where to find it. And enjoy this episode. I was trying to find the etymology of Kybalion, but it doesn't come up.
Yeah, because it's not necessarily linked to the Kabbalah, but it could be. But this is all just because they couldn't write it down. They had to pass it down through word of mouth, because if you were caught with a manuscript like this, then you would be in a lot of trouble, because the power structure itself was like, well, we believe in, you know, Catholicism or whatever, fill in the blank, doesn't matter. And the Kybalion is meant to take all the ideas from all of these different religious systems and boil them all down into the principles, which is what's really more important anyway, right? Like, essentially the way we think about politics or anything else is like we attribute things to this person or this party or whatever. And it's like we totally gloss over the actual principles that are in operation. And the first one being the principle of mentalism, that everything is first a mental construct before it's a physical construct. Infinity is real. So like, I love this because it's helped me so much in my own journey. It's like, so many people try and work really hard to like manifest something. They think they have to generate it or create it. But in reality, if infinity is real, whatever it is that you can think of, it already exists. Beyond like even the things that you can think of beyond that, all those things exist too. So instead of having to like create this thing and like work really hard, you can just already know that whatever that thing is in your mind already exists in the mental plane. So then at that point, it becomes about bringing it into the physical, which is a bit of a process, but you don't have to fight so hard to like manifest stuff, dude. It already exists in the ether. There's like a version of each of us, like infinite versions of it. And it's like, if you want to get to that person, then you write or put in some sort of form what that version of yourself is, that higher self or overmensch or whatever, however we want to call it, and then transfigure yourself to it. So you focus on that particular version and you vibrate towards it, or whatever, gay, thing we want to say about like how to actually do it, you manifest it, but you focus on that thing, and where attention goes, energy flows, as above, so below, all these principles, it just comes back to you because you're basically through osmosis or focus or attention, putting your emphasis of what it is that you want on that thing. And by doing that, it just brings it into reality essentially by itself. I mean, you're still taking action and doing those things. Sure. I don't think you can get to sit around and just all of a sudden a check comes in the mail like The Secret taught, like that was obviously a hoax, but it took a lot of these ideas and sort of broke them apart and used some of them. That you'll notice there's no law of attraction in here, right? Like there's mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, gender, and cause and effect.
That's a controversial one, gender.
Right. Well, the biggest, to me, the biggest key in the Kybalion, if you were just going to read one chapter, I would read the principle of mental gender, because that particular chapter breaks apart the psyche. And it does it same kind of similar as the East does, where he talks about the I and the am and splits those two things apart. So the I and the am, or the I and the me. Okay. So same thing. I am is me. Okay. So in this scenario, but to think about it, the I is the masculine static observer. Like the I is never changing. It's the part of us that's always conscious and paying attention to everything, that part of ourselves. And then the me is the mental womb, or the feminine. And so that's this emotional range, the up and down, the thoughts that just kind of come out of nowhere seemingly, right? Like, so we've got these two parts of our psyche, and in order to unify them paradoxically, which paradox is one of the laws, you have to break them apart. So that is super powerful, because like as you do meditation or whatever it is that you're doing, you can start to learn to identify with that observer, and then also, lean into that experiencer. You basically got the observer and the participant in the psyche. And so you want to be able to use both. Obviously, like we're here to experience the range of emotion. We're here to experience life and have fun as humans. Doesn't mean we're going to be some weird stoic that just doesn't do anything, just sits at the wall all day, like like just a lump. That's no fun. But if you're aware that that observer is is at the like fundamental aspect of your consciousness, and then you can kind of live there and then lean into that feminine, then you're kind of playing this dance within your own psyche. And then you can have fun and then still stay grounded and centered. Like it's not always easy, but if you can practice that, then whenever you start to have a flare up or get angry or upset, or you have like a strong desire for something, you'd be like, okay, well, let me check myself, like kind of lean back into the I, because I know that I'm leaning a little bit too far into the me. So it becomes like this balance or Tao, like the yin yang kind of thing, right? Same kind of thing. So separate the psyche in order to reunify it. I think that's probably the most powerful chapter. People, I think, get sort of stuck in the Eastern stuff because it's like, oh, you have to detach and you have to not like anything, and desire's bad. But it's like,
but you can see where, and sorry to cut you off, where that part of it too, right? Because we're talking about the balance, right? The middle path. You got the left pillar, right pillar, left hand path, right hand path, and you have the center, right? And you can see where that part of like detaching, and again, it's Hermetic, so it's very Gnostic. And one thing that I don't like about Gnosticism, or really any black pill, is where like everything is fake and gay. So what does it all matter? Yeah. Right. I just, let me piece out of this reality. And you can see where that could attach itself to like worse things.
Yeah. Nihilism, solipsism. Yeah.
Yeah. Nihilism, which is what, again, we're talking about the Ubermensch. That's what Nietzsche was like, listen, God is dead, but we killed them. Like read the whole quote, read that whole book, bro. It's like, we killed him. And he was talking about, this, it opens that door for nihilism, which then it leads you down this path of not having a purpose, right? Not feeling useless. And there's nothing more dangerous, bro, than someone who has nothing to lose.
Could not agree more. 1000% agree. And that's why I love the Gita so much too, is because like Krishna's like, dude, I don't want to fight. It's like, I don't want to do this, but it's like, dude, you have to. You have to embrace your dharma. You know, your dharma is your action, right action, the correct action for you. And everyone's obviously going to be different in that, like what their dharma is. Like for me, it's to go up on stage and bomb talking about my taint. You know what I'm saying? That's just my dharma. So like, that's what I have to do. So I go up and I fight, you know, I go up and I do the thing. And so that is what's leading us to that purpose. But that is also what's leading us to get out of that desire state, because there is a higher state or form of what we would consider desire, which is just called inspired. What does he call it in the Bhagavad Gita? It's basically like inspired action, right? It's like you're doing this thing, but you're not doing it with any outcome attached, right? Like you're not doing it because you're going to get a direct result. You're just doing it because you're inspired to do it. And you're not worried about the fruit of the outcome, which is like amazing when you can get into that state. Like I've been working myself, just learning how to emotionally get there. And it's a bit of a process. It can be a lot of work, but once you get there, it's so fun because you're not worried. You're in this state of indifference, which sounds kind of bad. Like, oh, indifference, that doesn't sound fun. But you're like having fun by doing the thing. It's like dancing is a great example. It's like, why do we dance? Is there some outcome that's going to come from dancing? Like, no, I just like dancing. I enjoy moving my body. It feels good. And that's enough. And so the results that come from that, generally like dopamine, you know, just a higher level of awareness, just having a good time and sharing with people. And then that becomes this momentum that people start to take inspiration from, right? Like there's one video where some dude like starts dancing in like a San Francisco park, you know, and then like everybody's kind of looking at him weird, you know, and they're like, what's going on? And they're like, he's the weird one. But then everybody else starts dancing, and then more people start dancing. And then before too long, you know, the three onlookers, they're the weird ones. You know what I mean? So it becomes,
because we're all collectively agreeing this is the new norm, this is the new thing, so therefore it becomes the reality, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all mental right there, and then it's also vibratory, you know, because the people are picking up on the vibration or emotion of it. So then it becomes like the thing, you know. But yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot just by like practicing this stuff, and the Kybalions really helped me to see from a higher perspective, because that's really a big part of it too, is like leaning into that I and having like a higher perspective of it, because it talks about how the pendulum is going to swing. So it's like we have a gas crisis one week, for instance, and everybody freaks out and goes and buys 7 gallons of gas and stows it in their basement. But then 2 weeks later, gas is lower than it's been in 6 years. Mm-hmm. If you have perspective and you have the awareness and the just the mindfulness to be able to lean into that I, you're like, okay, there's a gas crisis this week. Cool. What's coming next? You know, it's like, let's fill the car up or whatever. And then you're not affected at an emotional level like that. That's like one of the things that it talks about at the end of the Kybalion, is that people who know how to use their will, and some people don't even know that they're doing it, right? Like, but people that know how to use their will, that masculine will that is derivative of the I, in order to influence their feminine, the am, right? It's like, just like all the symbology of like the you know, downward triangle, the chalice, and the upward of the phallus. Mm-hmm. You know, the phallus impresses upon the subconscious chalice, and then it creates emotion. So by actively doing that and being in control of our own mental state, emotional state, whatever you want to call it, consciousness level, then that puts you on a completely different, in a completely different place. You know, just by being aware of that. That's really what alchemy is. It's just state control.
It's the cosmic cream pie. You know, we could just call it that, dude. So really quick. Really quick.
1000%, yeah.
Really quick, bro, because this is interesting, right? So inspiration and enthusiasm have been two words that have always intrigued me, because inspiration, right? And speaking of the Nephilim, we have Genesis 2 here. And the Lord formed man of dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul, right? We're all homunculus deep down inside. So once you learn to love your homunculus, you can love yourself. Mm-hmm. And right, so inspiration meant immediate influence of of God or a God, especially under that which the holy books were written, from Old French inspiration, inhaling, breathing in inspiration, and it continues and it continues. So you're having this divine spark, right? The sense of evolution seems to be from breathe into to infuse animation or influence, thus affect, rouse, guide, or control, especially by divine influence. And then here, enthusiasm has kind of sort of the same thing, divine inspiration produced by certain kinds of music, etc. To be inspired or possessed by a god, be wrapped. What the does that be wrapped?
I think it's like raptured, rapturous.
Be in ecstasy. Yes, look what wrapped means. What does that mean? So completely fascinated by what one is seeing or hearing, having been carried away bodily or transported to. Oh yeah, you're right. Raptured. Yeah. And so divinely inspired, possessed by God, and excessive religious emotion through the conceit of special revelation from God. Interesting. So these words were literally like you're being possessed by something. And the dancing example that you talked about, there was this book that I read. I believe it was written in 1888 or 1889, sometime where Nietzsche died, and it's by Gustave Le Bon. And I've talked about this before. I
love that. The Crowd?
Yes, The Crowd. Yeah,
Yeah, dude.
Phenomenal book. Yeah. And the contagion that he talks about that weaves in and out of the crowds, right? And how you're saying it possesses people, quite literally, because, right, we're talking about civil unrest. Well, we had all those riots in 2020, all this stuff where people were acting out of character. They were being inspired and very enthusiastic towards what was going on, and it led to people losing their lives, in some places that were being attacked, because again, there's something about the contagion, bro. And that plays into the law of correspondence, doesn't it? Like or maybe cause and effect.
It's both, yeah. Well, the cause and effect is great too, because like thinking back to like that I and the me, right? Like if we're at the effect, then we're basically just at the whim of our me, right? Like the emotional state that we're in. Like, oh, everything's bad or everything's good or however I feel is influencing me. Whereas the people who are alchemists, they actively can control their mood. And I'm not saying that's easy to do by any stretch of the imagination, especially in the world that we live in now with so much stimulus coming at you. But really, that's where we want to be. We want to be able to position ourselves at the cause and not at the effect. So if we're in a riot, we're like, okay, look, I'm not going to get looped into this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have agency. I'm aware of what I'm doing. And I'm not just going to like blindly start throwing bricks that are just so happen to be a stack of them right here. I can't imagine why that might be, but having agency and being at the cause. And then, and correspondence too, as above, so below. So like as whatever that group energy is, we're being influenced by it. Reality transurfing, the Vadim Zeland guy, he calls that pendulums. And even in the Kybalion, they talk about pendulums. Like I did not add that in there. Like not most of the stuff that he talks about is in the Kybalion. It's just the Kybalion's super dense. And then reality transurfing, I think I have a copy of it, is a little bit.
Because they take these principles, how you said, they're universal. So they take these principles and then they form their online course on how to manifest whatever it is, right? And it's like, here you go. You can have all. Who is like that? There's a famous guy who's like that. Not Andrew Tate. Is Andrew Tate kind of sort of like that? Not really, right?
I've never really paid attention to much of his stuff. I know he was like teaching people how to turn girls into OnlyFans models. That was his whole thing. He's like the G or something they call him. I never really paid much of attention to his stuff. I've watched a good bit of like dating and pickup stuff, but he always rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I don't think it was him necessarily, but there were several people who talk about that stuff in that sort of sphere. There's a bunch of those types of influencers like Dan Bilzerian and some of these other guys.
Which they're a lot of them are frauds, bro. Like that Dan Bilzerian guy was freaking broke. Like he was like going broke and losing all his money and all the houses and everything. Because again, that speaks to something higher, right? So especially when it comes to being a man, that sort of that I don't want to say it, but like toxic masculine. No, I'm not even gonna say that. But you know what I'm saying, like the archetypal man, the what the hell they call the people who chop down the trees,
like lumberjack,
like manly man. You know what I'm saying? Like that speaks to people, and there's like this de-evolution from that. So it goes back to that quote where, you know, hard men create good times or something. You know which one I'm talking about. And weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
And it seems like, you know, my dad going through the drive-thru. Okay, thank you, sir. I identify as ma'am. It's not sir, it's ma'am. You know, it's like that sort of where whatever happened to sticks and stones may break my bones.
Right.
But words are all powerful now. We're back in the Renaissance era where there were grimoires, bro. Words have so much power over other people, dude. I said on stage with Sam Tripoli, and he looked at, because the whole crowd went, and Sam looked over. And he's like, "That's like saying the N-word nowadays." But I was like, "What? Quit being a bunch of, you know, like what are you talking about, dude?"
Yeah, some places, dude, and a lot of the comedy like places, they're super like, yeah, they would totally like blackball you for saying something like that. Like there's some places where you could still say
you can't cancel me. I'm already yeah, I'm already canceled. Again, you can't. There's nothing more dangerous than a man that has nothing to lose. Right. What the are they gonna do to me? So I'm gonna call your boss. Call him, dude. My phone will ring. You know, like who cares, bro? Like, and that's the thing. Words now are everything, bro. And it goes back to these dudes like, oh, John, do you know where Kelly were speaking to spirits? And it's the same version, bro. It's the same thing nowadays. Like, oh, you got to refer to them by what they identify as. Bro, what?
It's a lot of fear. You know, it's fun. And I've wondered this question too a lot. Because like if you're gay, you can say that. So it's like, how many dicks do I need to suck to get a pass? You know what I'm saying? Like
666, bro.
I mean, you know, and if I drink my own homunculuses, you know, can I then, you know, use that as a phrase? You know, for me, like, I don't know. I try to avoid it. It's like, I didn't even do a joke that I wanted to do so bad just because I was like, well, I'm just going to skip. I'm not going to do this joke, you know, because I'm like, it's not going to necessarily help me. It's a weird thing because you got to pick your battles. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it just is what it is. Like, it's not like people aren't saying it like crazy, you know, it's like the C word or whatever, you know, is like the new thing you can't say, but there is a truth to oppression math and people being able to get away with things, you know, if they are of a certain persuasion or if they do identify a certain way, then they can say those words, you know, so, but I don't know. I mean, I don't make the rules. We just have to work around them in this particular world. But the other part of it is creating that, you know, that other system, the actual other system where it's like, we don't have to play by these rules over here. Yeah. You know, that's what I've learned over the past couple of years. It's like, well, if I want to get booked, which good luck as a, you know, straight white dude getting booked on shows, right? Like that's pretty hard. You got to be good.
What do you mean? Like comedy shows?
Yeah. Like comedy shows, or I can create my own shows and create opportunities for other people and book them. Then I get stage time because I created the show. I can do the show, my own show, and I give them stage time. So I start booking other people and then they'll book me as a result of giving them an opportunity, as opposed to how many people would view it of like, well, I'm funny. Why isn't anybody booking me? No one's hitting my line. Why isn't anybody booking me? This is unfair. But it's like, dude, you have to create the opportunities. You can't just sit around and expect. It's like you doing the podcast. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're talking about these podcasters who are just getting 50 downloads. Dude, I know what that was like. Yeah. I remember starting my channel. I just got super lucky, like I didn't even figure anything out. I was literally just like, I'm going to share this stuff. I didn't know there was a whole industry of people coach. I didn't know any of that. I was just like drawing stick figures on a whiteboard, trying to help people. You know what I mean? And I didn't realize it was $1 billion industry.
Really?
You know, but
like self-help type of thing, like
yeah, self-help stuff, you know, like people will sell their courses. Yeah, people will sell their courses, and a lot of them are really good. Some of them are, you know, some of them are frauds. It's true, but like a lot of the stuff that I bought is really good. Not everything was, but you know, usually you get a nugget or two out of it. And then there's people who have systems where they can teach you how to, you know, do your branding and your podcasting or, you know, whatever. And then other people would be able to teach you whatever their area of expertise is. And it can be extremely valuable, because think about the amount of time that you could save. For instance, if somebody could help me 10x my comedy set, well, I'd be at the cellar, you know, if I want, you know, like my set would be so good because my set's pretty good. But if I could 10x it, how much money is that worth? If I had all the money in the world, I'd be like 50 grand, here you go. Let's 10x my set. Like it's a no brainer at that point, you know? And so some people who understand insight and and want to like basically put the gas down on their growth or whatever it is that they're trying to learn, they know that money is less valuable than time by a lot.
Oh,
time is the most important thing. So
never get time back.
Yeah, but they're probably so busy working on their business and they've got all these other obligations that they don't have the time to study something. So it's like this book, the reality transurfing book, is like super long, or like the Kybalion even. It's like somebody might be like, man, I really don't have time to study the Kybalion for a couple of years. Can you get on a call and help me figure out how to apply it to my life? And I'm like, yeah, of course.
So you're telling me, Bootsy, that the $250 I spent to have a past life transgression and talk to my higher self was a scam, dude?
Bro, I had a past life transgression. It's like, in a past life, you were an Amco transmission technician. I'm like, bitch, that's what I do now. What the f-?
So funny how just a feedback loop, right? It's like she looked you up on like LinkedIn or something.
Right,
so,
exactly.
Because I was talking to Joe. We were talking on you know, one of the streams on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/101podcast. We were talking about how he doesn't believe in hypnosis, right? And it's like, well, what do you, and then we started talking about, well, you know, we're talking about words, sticks and stones and all this. Well, do words possess people? Because, you know, whenever, and we were talking about, I think we were talking about when that whole thing with Chris Brown and Rihanna came out, and we're like, listen, dude, we don't know what was said behind closed doors, okay? And sometimes women will push certain buttons and things happen, right? I'm not saying I don't condone that. I'm just saying, like, we were in that context of it, and then that led into like, hey, well, can words possess you? Because when William Burroughs, a chaos magician, talked about there's a string of words that will unravel your reality, will drive you insane, will fizzle you out of existence. It's like, what if the words are the keys, right? Literally the keys to reality and to possession. Like you hit a salesman can hit the right amount of words, the right amount of things to get you to buy something, dude. Will get you to give into something. I wasn't ever blessed with that. It's funny because I have a podcast. I wasn't blessed with persuade. I don't like that, dude. I think that's scummy. Like trying to sell things. Like I never really did like that. Mm-hmm. But that's part of manifesting the change and bringing forth things to happen, right? The way you speak about something, the way you. So we were talking about that, and then I was like, well, there's videos, and again, it could be faked, of dudes coming in their pants because this dude hypnotized him and made him, I think it was, they made him believe that he was having sex with like Madonna or some like hot, well, Madonna's.
He just starts throwing up everywhere.
Maybe not Madonna, but, you know, use somebody else. I said hot, but use somebody else, J-Lo or sure. anyone else, right? Insert anyone else. And the dude jizzed in his pants. And now that could have been made up, right? Could have been fake. He could have called on some dude in the crowd and it was actually his friend. A dude wakes up, but he was under this spell essentially because he was hypnotized. And of course, Joe doesn't believe in hypnotism. I was like, dude, I mean, I'd be pretty pissed off if I was up on stage and then I came to and I'm just like, what the hell is this? You know, I'd be mad, bro. Mm-hmm. Like, I'd be angry. So it's like, do words have that power where they're able to vibrate in your ear holes a certain type of way, and it's like the Manchurian Candidate or the Uber Mensch, right, where you're just like, and then you're a sleeper cell or something, you know?
Right.
Artichoke, and then you start, dude.
Farfignugan, like,
yeah, like whatever, bro. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
I think that reality, and I started reading thanks to Joe. I've been hanging out with him a lot. I started listening to speaking of reality not being much more malleable than we're led to believe, but it was the book by, let me pull it up here, by Robert Monroe, The Journeys Out of the Body. I started listening to it today because Joe had told me about it, and dude, it's some crazy stuff, man. He's talking about, the astral self, the higher self, and letting go, and you being able to do other stuff with that. And he says that maybe is that a more advanced technique of what the Kybalion is talking about? Because I believe it was in either this book or the Kybalion. I think it was in this book where he's like, all the mystics knew about this. All the ones that were in the secret societies, the secret circles knew about this technique. And that's how they were able to join the club, right? Like this group of people who have this ability that they're able to astral project and do God knows what in these other realms, like,
Yeah, dude, I was fascinated with the Robert Monroe stuff too, because like he's talking about at the beginning of the book, like how he went to a psychologist friend and he's like, I think I'm going crazy. I think you need to commit me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's like, I'm rolling out of my bed and putting my hand through the floor. This is up. Like, there's something wrong with it.
That was Carl Jung too, though, bro. Carl Jung was on the same boat where he, the stuff that he was doing was kept under wraps for a while too, and I believe his red books were the ones that came out recently, like 2010, because it was woo woo, bro. But it was about going within yourself to dig out stuff. I mean, I still till this day trying to rap. It's so dense, but again, using this active imagination, like we were talking about the devil. Like, have you ever talked to the devil before? Right? Is the devil real? Like, what is that? Is the Goetia a real thing? Or are we just talking to different aspects of ourselves in different forms?
I know what Joe's take is on that, and I tend to agree with him. It is versions of ourselves, like, and all paths lead to Krishna anyways. I mean, it's all going to the same place. This is what Bhagavad Gita says. It's weird that he doesn't believe in hypnotism, because like, I do. I definitely do. And even just NLP, neuro-linguistic programming.
I believe in that though, before all right, relax your anus. I started my set with that. I said, everyone relax your anus. All right.
You should have started with that.
I did start with that, bro. I was like, relax your anus, everybody.
So good.
We're about to go in. And, just think of, count between, and then they're just like, oh. Listen, dude, I don't know. I'm going to talk to a hypnotist on Friday tomorrow for the show.
Cool.
He does hypnotism, but I don't know if he's going to do it on air, but I don't know, man, because there's a lot of fraudsters when it comes to this sort of stuff too. Like how you're saying, there's a lot of good books, but there's a lot of people who are full of shit, right? And a question that I had for you, right, because we're talking about unlocking your true self, perhaps fulfilling your destiny and doing all these other things, being good at your craft, being good at what you do, but maybe something that a lot of people don't talk about. When is it okay to call it quits and go, hey, maybe I suck and I should do something else?
That's a good question. That was some of my mom's best advice for me. She was like, son, she really didn't want me to play football. She would be like, you can always quit. You can always quit. Yeah, don't forget. But I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know, man. I'm of the opinion that you just keep barreling through, and eventually you'll find your way. You'll find that crack in the dam eventually. And it sucks to try and work and just keep hitting dead ends and keep hitting dead ends and keep hitting dead ends. But like, I set up a YouTube channel and an entire Google infrastructure the other day for Athens Comedy, which is a brand that I'm building here locally. And I did it so efficiently that Google shut down my account because they thought I was a robot. That's how many times I've done this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've done this so many times that they're like, nope, that's an AI bot. Right. And so it's like, because I've done the process so many times, it's kind of automatic for me. And so whatever it is that you're doing, you keep doing that and you keep learning these little tweaks and nuances, you'll start to catch on to things other people have never noticed before. And that's when you can start to give some really great insight to other people. So I say, I don't really believe in quitting, but like if you hit a wall, just go a different way and try to find a way toward whatever that other thing is. And eventually you're going to find your talent, your penis showing game, as they say in the movie Waiting, right? Like you'll figure it out. And so for me, like the biggest thing I like to work with people on is purpose. Like, because if you don't know and have like a purpose, I like it written out as a statement. Personally, that's just how I do it. It doesn't matter. Like, and you can do it however you want, but like, if you don't know what that is, you don't have really like a reason why you do what you do, there's really not much room to grow from there. Like, what else are you going to do? How are you going to stay centered? How are you going to stay focused? How are you going to be able to endure those days that are inevitable, or a lockdown, or what the ever's coming down the pipe, if you don't have what that is? So to me, like just digging down into that and into your own, reason for being, or Ikigai, if you want to look that up, it's Ikigai for people out there who are looking that up. It's a Japanese, it's like a Japanese modality. It's what you're good at, what you can be paid for, what the world needs, and what you like doing, all synthesized into one thing. Go to images. So you see those circles and they all like overlap into your passion, your mission,
like
your profession,
icky.
your vocation.
Ew. Don't be a creep. It's like, no, it's literally a Japanese technique.
yeah, exactly. No, it's just me. I'm hiding behind a bush. It's me.
It's me. I'm a creep.
but yeah, like that's like for me, like one of the best exercises that I like to share with people is to just jot down like each one of these quadrants, like what it is for you. And then also I'll add this as like a nuance, because this was something that I was obsessed about, right? Like this is something that I was able to find through a lot of trial and a lot of error. Write down the things also the opposite, the things that you're not good at, the things you can't be paid for, the things the world doesn't need, and the thing that you don't love doing, right? Like, so you can process of elimination that right off. But what you're going to see is you're going to see things start to overlap between the four columns. And then you can start to take that and develop that. And then you can kind of mold that into a bit of a purpose statement for yourself and get a good idea of like, what is it that I'm here to do? Because I'll say this, your purpose has nothing to do with you. It has something to do with everyone else. It's not about you. It's about other people and what you can do and give to them. So to be cheesy and a little corny for a second, my purpose is to bring people joy. That's it. But I can do that in a lot of different ways. Like there's many different functions. Like I can bring people joy on a podcast. I can bring people joy on stage talking about my tiny penis. I can bring people joy in the grocery store line when I'm at Target or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's that function. It doesn't matter what your role in society is. That has nothing to do with your purpose. So go ahead and divorce those two things and think about what you can actually give to the world and what it needs. All those types of things, and synthesize those things. And then you can cultivate like a little bit of a motivational statement for yourself. And whenever you're like having a hard time, just come back to that. Or even in the morning or journaling, come back to that. And then link that into your higher self, that transfiguration thing that we're talking about at the beginning, or oversoul, and what your conception of that is. Now, don't compare yourself to this perfect version of yourself, because then you're just going to beat yourself up for not being perfect. But start to think about those capacities, those characteristics, and then just think on those things. Like in the Bible says, think on these things, joy and love and all these things, and those aspects of yourself. And you'll start to embody them. I mean, it'll just start to happen a little bit. Another Japanese thing is like the paso a paso thing, where it's like a little bit of improvement, like 1% better every single day. Just a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better every day in every way. I'm getting better and better and better. And so like, if you just kind of start that process, you could just take 2 or 3 minutes at the beginning of the day, tape something on your mirror, just a reminder on your phone that goes off. Like I have a reminder that goes off on my phone every day at noon.
I do too. It's pops that you're a piece of shit, and then I sneeze it.
Perfect. Right. And so whatever works for you, that's, what you've got to do there. But like, as far as like, just moving the ball forward and when to give up, I say never give up. There's like even probably there's probably a point where you push past for everyone. Like if you could talk to any comedian, honestly, like they'd be like, dude, there were so many moments where I never thought I would make it. It was so bleak, man. And it's so heartless. And the other comedians are just savages. They don't care about you at all. Like it is the most heartless industry, hands down, that I've ever experienced. And I can't imagine there really being another one that's harder to navigate than comedy itself. It is literally the most savage industry that I could imagine. And so by having a lot of failure and a lot of criticism and negative feedback, and the audience hates you sometimes and all the other comedians hates you, it makes you so resilient, and it makes you really dig down deep into that. So that purpose, whatever that is for you, and you can make it less corny, please give me a note. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to make it less gay, less gay if possible. But yeah, I mean, for me, you know, that's the big thing that I would say to anybody who's like, I'm thinking about giving up. Don't. Keep going. You'll figure it out. You'll find the crack in the dam, and eventually you will find your stroke. And who knows whatever that is, people need it. People need that from you. So stick in there. Don't give up. My mom was wrong about a lot of stuff. I love my mom, but you know, she was right about me quitting football because I was not a football star. So she actually did nail that one. But
no, I love that, dude. I think that, right. I don't think that we reevaluate because we get in this hamster wheel of things. And I don't think that me and myself included, I think I'm going to try this out, bro. It's like, because sometimes you feel down, you feel stressed out because of work. And you're like, man, things aren't going good, blah, blah, blah. There's more bad days than good days. So let's step back, reevaluate, and see if this, right? Because if you don't have a goal, it's so important what you're saying. If you don't have a goal, if you don't have like an end game, what are you doing?
Right.
You know, and dude, I'm a kind of guy who I've winged it almost the 30 years of my life. I've winged it as much as I could. I'm going to go with the flow, but once you have kids and everything, you got to start buckling down and start analyzing things a little bit more strategically, because it's not just you anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like people are depending on you. So I'm going to try this out, dude, you know, reevaluating with everything. I mean, with work, with the podcast, with everything else. And it's like, hey, and then cut off what you need to cut off and do what you got to do. I think that's so important, bro. Like that just clicked. You're like, so what are you doing? You know, when people ask me, you have a podcast. Yeah. What's it about? Stuff.
There's a great thing that Judy Carter teaches that just popped into my head too. Cause like, she's so good about like kind of selling yourself and what it is that you do. And she'll have this like framework where it's like, you know how people have a hard time, blah, 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 blah. Well, I then fix the problem. Right. And then people will be like, whoa, fuck, I need that. Like, how can I get that? And it's like, that's such a simple way to like phrase it. And I'm like, well, you know how people aren't really sure like what their meaning is, or like have like a really strong understanding of like why they're here on earth. Well, I help them kind of tease that out and put it into action or whatever. And so anybody can kind of take that framework and you know, use it to kind of do a little bit of a call to action and let people know what it is that they do. Cause like, I know you're making this podcast for a reason. You're reaching people with amazing information, insights into stuff that I would have never found. And dude, the homunculus stuff, I remember when we first talked about it, it blew my mind. And so much of the stuff that you've done with Thomas, like, has just been so cool. I got all y'all stuff in there.
Thanks, bro.
I got a bunch of stickers on the fridge, and I got books on the shelf and stuff. I love what you guys are doing. And the art itself, you know, is uplifting and it's fun. It's engaging for people, lets them maybe take a little break from feeling existential doom and melancholy, which we all deal with, you know, like even in our chat in Telegram, one of the guys last night was like, well, maybe we're supposed to be separate to feel this way. And ironically, you know, back to the idea of paradox, it's like, yeah, we're separated, but we're also united in our separation. Like we're feeling that same you know, like emotions, like that stuff. And we can relate to each other. And some of the best art in the world, it comes from that place of pain. But the reason why it's relatable is because everyone actually feels like that on the inside. So it's like, it's uniting, ironically, to have that separation. And so, you know, just looking at things that way, and the Kybalion is really good for that because it can help you reframe anything. It's like you can literally take the opposite of any argument and argue it, which is a cool skill to have, you know. And It's not, but I'm with you on the whole like nihilism thing. I think that's why I like the Ikigai thing. It's a reason for being. It's ancient Japanese art, art form, or I don't know, idea, philosophy, what have you.
Interesting, coming from a culture of people that have some of the highest rates. It's like, and they're like a lot of are unfulfilled. And my wife's half Japanese. Her mom's side of the family is all Japanese. So again, this is like, it's like a cultural thing. But then here you have this thing of like, maybe that's why they created it. But they're like, man, we're tired of feeling this way. We got to find some purpose and fulfillment, because that's what it's all about, man. And
exactly. And even just finding, like, it doesn't have to, like, I've accomplished some goals in my life, and it's like sometimes you hit the goal and you're like, well, now I feel just as empty as I did before when I wanted the goal. But just identifying what that is and the way to it, that's enough. That's what he says in the Transurfing book, is that when you find your goal, it makes your life a celebration, because you're like, yeah, I got something to live for. I got something to do. It's exciting. I can't wait to, do this thing. And some days are obviously, admittedly, much harder than others. We long for things. People break our hearts, all kinds of crazy shit happen. But it's so much easier to deal with that stuff than it would be without that direction. And it's just defining, your reason why, and understanding why it is that you do the things that you do. And it can really help you to contextualize yourself and your life. It's like a lot of people ask me how I do as much stuff as I do. Bro, like the old dad joke, it's all going to the same place. It's like I see my life going in one direction. These are just, like I say, functions are different than the purpose. These are just things that I'm doing that are ultimately getting me to that goal, to that destination. So you want to wind up learning all kinds of weird skills along the way, which are great. And then you can leverage those to help yourself make money, make other people money, make people's lives easier, whatever. But you're on the way to that one specific goal, that one specific purpose. And then that's what Dharma is from the Bhagavad Gita. It is your purpose. It is purposeful action, right action. And it's devoid of the fruit. You do it because you want to do it, because it's what you know you need to do, not because you're going to get a direct result from it. And what's awesome about that is then you start getting indirect results, and things start coming to you from unexpected places. People will hit you up on Instagram and be like, hey man, you changed my life, or you whatever. Like, dude, I was crying today because someone sent me an Instagram message about how much, one of the videos things that I was talking about on YouTube helped them. And I'm like, I'm an easy crier, so it's pretty easy to do. Like Finding Nemo, for me, that's a tearjerker. But like, it means a lot, and that's worth doing it. That's, if I could have worked 5 years or 7 years or whatever just to get one response like that, it's like, wow, I'm floored and humbled that I was able to touch somebody like that. And this is like somebody who's like a really high achiever, somebody who's done very, very well for themselves. I'm like, sometimes I get on just like calls with people who have been following my work, and I'm like, why are you hitting my line? Like, you're a genius, like, and it makes me feel, awesome, but also like, kind of like I get that little bit of an imposter syndrome too, where I'm like, wow, do I even deserve to be, in this network? But that's what true gratitude is, is understanding that and being able to experience it. It's like we can try to drum up gratitude and do your gratitude journal, but if you're not actually feeling the gratitude, I'm pretty sure it doesn't work.
Yeah, no, and from our conversation today, bro, I feel pretty inspired and refreshing, right? Because it's a lot of this stuff is doom and gloom, black pill, like, oh, it's all fake, it's all gay, like whatever. And I think that this conversation really just like, motivated me a little bit more to, again, reevaluate things and, have a different perspective. How you're saying, doing different things is just different facets of yourself, right? And just from a different perspective. So you're doing this, you're doing that. Because I get that question a lot too. Like, how are you doing so much? It's like, well, I'm having fun, man. I'm having a great time, and that's what it's all about, dude. So yeah, no, dude, absolutely.
Blew my mind. I mean, you're blowing my mind with all this drinking your piss. You know what I mean? I'm like, all this. No, but seriously, like all of this stuff, and then the honey thing was kind of an interesting sync too, because like my friend Tommy, like the most scientific person on the face of the planet, like, you would never, ever be able to pull one over on him. He's so smart. And then he's telling me about this honey that you put, and you put in your wound and it heals all the stuff. And I'm like, what? And then you're talking about them putting people in honey and eating their, but all of it's crazy. It blows my mind. So dude, your work is awesome, man. Like you're discovering things that I had no idea even existed. And I'm a super nerd. So good job.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, and I think that my journey, that was like one of the things that when I was up on stage talking about jerking off into jars, I think there's like something that clicked from him. Like all my work has come to this point of me talking about jerking off in front of, a crowd of people, looking this one guy in his eyeball, asking him about dog dicks. Like this is me, like this is
culminates here.
This is it, bro. And I just transcend into another dimension and just like peace out of this. Man, who knows, bro? But Owen, you want to leave us with anything else? Before we wrap up, I really enjoyed our conversation, bro. I think this is great, and I have to have you on more often, dude, because it's been a minute since we last worked together. It has, man. I always follow you and love what you've been doing. But yeah, like I want to have you on too. Come hang out very, very soon. I'm podcasting again pretty consistently. I was doing a really long series with my friend Abby, which was really fun. But like for those 18 or 20 episodes or something like that, right in a row, it was just she and I doing stuff. So I'm doing, podcasts with more guests now again, and she's coming on next week. Awesome, dude. No, she's a genius. She's brilliant. I want to encourage people, sit down, take a minute. Another tool that I learned when I was like trying to find purpose, there's a guy named Steve Pavlina. I think he's into BDSM now, but he was a big self-help guru back in the day. He quit and he's like a gimp now, but he figured it out. But he said, if you just sit down and write down what you think your purpose might be for 30 minutes is what I think he said. And then when there's no rules, write whatever you think. And then when you write the thing that makes you cry, that's what your purpose is. Now, you don't have to cry, but, if you feel some type of way where you're just like, it hits you, gutturally, then And so I did that. That's where I started. And then I started finding all these other things because it didn't work for me the first time. I had to try it a couple more times. And then, so the Ikigai, and I've got some other tools and stuff. If people want to hit me up, I'll give you resources. Purpose stuff, I teach that completely for free. I'm working on putting an offer together with Joe Roop and a couple other people to really try and leverage some of this information and then help people basically, once they figure out what they want to do, put that into action, and so help them out. So we're working on that in the background, making that happen. So yeah, follow me, Bootsy Greenwood, and come see me do some dick jokes. I'm doing them all over the place. I'm having fun. Loving doing comedy. It's so much fun. We got to get together IRL, bro, in real life. And like I said, in October, I don't know exactly the dates or anything like that. The guys have been talking about it. I'll have to ask them again, but the Bohemian Grove, a live comedy show, they want to do like a podcast day. Like it's a whole thing, a whole event at a local comedy shop in Summerfield, Florida. So I'd like to see you there too, bro. And anyone else listening. There was a lot of people who showed up that listened to the show, and it was pretty weird, having people who talk about admiring your work and showing up and supporting. But yeah, dude, I'd love to do something in real life sometime. Maybe it'll be that the first time. Who knows? We'll have Joe fly out too or something. Okay, I'll go pick his ass up. I'm gonna go pick him up. I'll drive to Arkansas, grab Joe Roop, stick him in my trunk. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. We'll shoot down from there. So yeah, it's in middle of Florida. Yeah, Summerfield, Florida. Yeah, up toward Ocala, which is closer to you because you're near the border, no? Yeah, I'm up near Atlanta, but yeah, I'm not far. Like I've got family in Jacksonville, I got family in Orlando. So okay, cool. Yeah, we'll make it happen, dude. And did you have a website? Yeah, it's just bootsygreenwood.com. All right, cool. Yeah, I'll post the links in the description. And yeah, dude, this was great. As always, everyone, make sure to follow the show on social media at the Juan on Juan Podcast, TJOJP.com. All that good stuff. Also, follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, streaming every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. It's always a good time. And yeah, dude, as always, everyone, catch you on the other side.